Hey, this Sunday I don't think we're going to have time to record a 5-minute sermon summary with our special guest speaker, Martha Bowen. So I'm just going to do a quick teaching on the same passage of Scripture she's going to use, which is John chapter 4, verses 1 to 42. You know, when I was a kid, we used to have a song in Sunday school that we sang, and it was a good way to introduce kids to a good view of love and service in Jesus. And the song was simple. It would just go to the tune of Jingle Bells, and it would go like this: J-O-Y, J-O-Y, this must surely mean Jesus first, yourself last, and others in between. Well, this song, I think the point of it is that even as a child, you would learn to love others in the kind of way where you're willing to put the need of others ahead of your own. And really, that's a natural response as a Christian because we see what Jesus did for us. Jesus is the kind of God that was willing to leave heaven, come into our earth, where people would slander him, where they would insult him, where they wouldn't listen to him, and ultimately he would undergo suffering and death on the cross for us. And he did all that so that those people, same people that were hurting him, or just the people that weren't listening to him, that they would have a future. He was really saving their future in Jesus and saving their future in God. Now, in John chapter 4, we find Jesus confronting a Samaritan woman. This would be like a kid going to the wrong side of the tracks. Jesus went to the wrong side of the tracks. He went to Samaria, and he went to the town of Shechem, and he met this woman by himself at a well. Now, to just give you a snippet of the cultural differences of the issues between the Jews and the Samaritans, some of Jesus' disciples actually asked Jesus to rain down fire from heaven upon some Samaritans they ran into when they were traveling one time. And so you can see that there are definitely some issues, and there are cultural customs against Jesus, a Jewish man, speaking with a Samaritan woman. And even the way that we're introduced to this woman at noontime, when the sun's the hottest, coming out to a well, we see an example of someone who looks like they're an outcast even to their own culture. And when they did talk, Jesus pointed out with his prophetic knowledge that this unnamed woman had already had 5 husbands, and she was currently living with a man outside of marriage. Now, whether you're Jew or a Samaritan in these days, both cultures would see this as a sin. Even so, and aside from pointing out that she had sinned, Jesus spoke gently to her, offering her a living water. Even though she had come to the well to meet a physical need, getting water, Jesus was offering her this living water so that he would meet her spiritual need, which is that she would find salvation in God. And in verse 26, Jesus, in their discussion, ends up admitting to the woman that he is the Messiah who was prophesied. I just want to mention 3 ways that Jesus spoke to the potential of this woman when no one else could hardly see any good in her at all. First, Jesus broke the barrier of culture. He was unconcerned with what anybody else thought about what he was doing, whether it's the disciples or other Jews or anyone else. He was going to meet with this sinful Samaritan woman because of the love he had in his heart for her. For anyone to help this woman, they first needed to be willing to overcome the cultural issues surrounding her situation. Secondly, Jesus broke the barrier of sin. This woman he met was not only condemned by the Jews because of her culture, but by her own people because of her sinful situation, because of her actions. She had serious relational issues that led to sins that Jesus in Matthew chapter 5 categorized as adultery. That wasn't going to stop Jesus either, because he approached her bearing the solution to that problem. And Jesus offered her living water that would meet her spiritual needs. And finally, Jesus broke the barrier of judgment. Most people would look at this woman and judge her by the things that she has done, but Jesus saw the things that she could become. He references it first in verse 10, telling her that if she had asked, he would have given her living water. Then Jesus saw that she could become a believer. And not only that, his actions led her to telling the whole town that she lived in about Jesus. And many, many came to her and became believers in Jesus because she was faithful to go and witness. So Jesus saw something in her that others didn't, and it resulted in her becoming really the first evangelist to the Samaritans. Well, okay, today, if you're watching this on September 24th, we join with our brothers and sisters all over the world praying for those suffering in all sorts of different bondages. Specifically today is the day of prayer for the victims of human trafficking, which is modern day slavery. Even today, Jesus breaks cultural, sin, and judgmental barriers of all kinds for his children. I ask you to pray for those who others might cast aside, knowing fully that God knows them, loves them, and will hold us accountable for our treatment of those in the most need.